Hello everyone, I'm Dave and welcome to the Cichlid Charmer. Today I'm going to be giving you 5 things to consider before you get an African cichlid peacock hap tank. Peacocks and haps are beautiful fish and they have great personalities, they're entertaining to watch, and they're fun to keep. But the challenge can be a little bit too daunting for someone who isn't prepared for what they're getting into. So that's what this video is for. It's a good start in your research to getting one of these tanks. Now the first thing that you need to consider before getting an African cichlid peacock hap tank is tank size. Peacocks and haps range anywhere from about 5 inches up to 14 inches. So once you decide what size of fish you're going to keep in your aquarium, then you need to decide what size aquarium you're going to have them in. If you look around online and Google this, you'll find that most people say that the minimum tank size you should have is a 55 gallon, because that's the first tank that'll give you 4 feet of swimming room for your fish. If you're going to overstock your tank though, I think the minimum tank size that you should have for them is a 125. That's going to give them 6 feet to swim across. And especially if they're larger fish or you're overstocking it, I think that's important because it gives them a lot of swimming room, plus it gives them room to get away from each other. Because these fish are aggressive. And that is the second thing you need to consider before getting an African cichlid tank: aggression. If you're looking for a peaceful fish that gets along well with others, well, these guys probably aren't going to be the fish for you. They're more like crazed psychopaths than they are peaceful fish. And there's usually one or maybe multiple fish who are ultra aggressive towards the others in the tank. You might find fish with missing scales or damaged fins or damaged eyes because of this. And you can occasionally even find a dead fish that has been beaten to death. Now there are ways to mitigate this aggression, but there are going to be instances where you just can't do anything about it because it either happened while you were at work or it happened overnight. And this is going to be a difficult time for most fish keepers. And if what I'm describing sounds like it's too much for you to handle, then I would probably steer far away from these African cichlids. The third consideration you need to make with peacocks and haps is filtration. Because these guys eat so much, they poop a lot. And this poop will either sit on the bottom of your tank or get sucked into a filter. And overfiltration is never a bad thing with African cichlids. So I recommend going overboard on filtration rather than underestimating your needs. With a 75-gallon tank or even a 55-gallon tank, I recommend an FX6, a Fluval FX6. And you always want to have redundancy in your filtration as well. So if that filter goes down, you want to back up either another FX6 or something smaller that can take up the slack while you're getting that one repaired or replaced. As you get larger, a 125-gallon tank, then you can look into sumps or multiple FX6s. For a 125, if you're going to do a Fluval FX6 filtration system, I recommend at least 2 of those filters. And you can also, as you go up, get 3 or more of those FX6 filters, but it might be more economic and beneficial to get a sump at that point. Consideration number 4 is expense. These guys can drain a bank account dry in no time. A 4-inch fish can cost you anywhere between $50 and $100 online if it's a guaranteed male. Also, if you want a smaller fish and you get a 2.5 to 3-inch fish, expect to pay about $20 to $35 online. Most people do get the males or guaranteed males because the aggression is less than if they have a female in the tank. So this will cost you a little bit more money. If you go with an unsexed fish, then you can get them for between $10 and $20 and just get multiples, and hopefully you have someone to give the females to if you're not going to be breeding them. And as I mentioned earlier, they eat a lot of food, and you don't want to get them cheap food because that's detrimental to their colors and health. So what you want to do is get good food, which costs a lot more money. So if you're looking for a fish that's not going to cost very much money, I would again look in another direction. The final consideration you need to make before getting peacocks and haps is that they're going to use one of the most precious resources that you have, and that's time. These guys are going to use a lot of your time up. Now, we already talked about filtration, and this requires larger filters. So you're going to be doing a lot more filter maintenance than you would with other fish. So that's going to take a lot of time. And also, since you're starting out with at least a 55-gallon aquarium, that's going to require larger water changes than you're used to. On top of that, with the aggression between these fish, you need to watch them quite often. For instance, when I get up in the morning, I'll look to make sure that nothing terrible happened overnight. Then I go to work and I come back home and I feed the fish and I inspect them then as well, looking for any frayed fins or damaged scales, damaged eyes, or anyone that looks like they're being abused in any way. Then I'll look at them several more times before I go to bed that night, and one final time before I do go to bed. I keep them in the dark overnight so that hopefully they won't be able to see each other and then they won't want to kill each other. Then I check them again in the morning as well, and we just go through the routine again. So if you do find something that's going on where a fish is getting beat up, then you have to be ready to handle that as well, and that's going to take time. Well, that's my list, guys. Thank you for stopping by, and check back soon for more content.